The odds were indeed stacked against a man named Sandy Cornish, born here on the Eastern Shore in the 1700s. So what chance did he have?
Well, the people of Key West, Florida can answer that question in a way that might surprise you. They walk by the Cornish Memorial AME Zion Church all the time.
There's a popular sculpture garden in town where the heroes of the community are honored, and yes, there is a bust of Sandy Cornish right there.
And it's not only Black History Month, but Throwback Thursday. So, of course, Jim Duffy of Secrets of the Eastern Shore joins us this afternoon to share the amazing story of Sandy Cornish. Jim, welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to see you. So the story actually begins right here.
Right here,
Yeah.
right here. Sandy Cornish was born into slavery 1790s. Most likely in the area between like Hurlock and East Newmarket in North Dorchester County.
All right.
So he grew up here. The descriptions of him are that he looked like a prize fighter. He had like a barrel chest and full of vim and vigor and muscles like a racehorse's legs. There's all kinds of descriptions of him like that. So he grew up here. He's in his 20s. He's married to a woman named Lila. His owner dies, and he gets inherited by the son of that owner.
Okay.
But the son, apparently, this is a strange little tidbit, the son doesn't really need any more slaves. And there's this thing that happens occasionally in slavery times where an owner doesn't free a slave. Instead, he says, you go off and figure it out for yourself. But you owe me $90 a year. And if you don't pay me $90 a year, I'm coming to get you. So it was that kind of a deal.
Okay.
They cut. And so Sandy Cornish goes off on his own, and he finds his way to Port Leone, Florida, on the Florida Panhandle. And he got a great job on the railroad. They were building a new railroad line, and that job paid him $600 a year. So for the next 9 years, he and Lila scrimped and saved, and eventually saved something like, I think it was $3,600, and bought his own freedom.
Oh.
So he thinks he's in great shape.
Right.
And then it all goes up in smoke. Literally. There's a big fire in Port Leone, and his house burns. All his money is in cash. All his money is gone. But the worst part is the papers that prove he's a free man all burn. It's not like he could put it in his Google Wallet, you know, a copy of it in his Google Wallet. All those papers are gone. Now, Port Leone is kind of like a Wild West town. This railroad town, there's a lot of drinking, there's a lot of gambling, there's a lot of unsavory characters. And 6 of those unsavory characters kidnapped him after learning about his situation with the paperwork, and they are going to try and sell him into slavery in New Orleans. Somehow or another, Sandy escapes from these 6 guys. What would you do if you escaped from guys like this?
Run.
As fast as
Just
you
keep
possibly
running.
could, yeah.
Just keep running. That's not what Sandy did. Sandy went back to his house, and he gathered up all of these supplies. He gathered up thread, needle, a mirror, some plaster, a knife, an axe, and a wheelbarrow. And he gathered all this stuff up. And he marches into the middle of town in Port Leone, and all the way on the way he is screaming, everybody come out, watch what I'm doing. He's screaming like a lunatic, telling everybody to come out. And what he does is he eliminates his value on the slave market. He uses that knife and that axe to damage his own body. Now, I could go into the details of that, but let's suffice to say that if they made a movie about Sandy Cornish's life, this is the scene where you would go like
Oh,
this.
my goodness.
You couldn't watch. Lila takes the mirror, holds the mirror up to his wounds, and Sandy threads
His own wounds.
his own wounds back up and plasters them. Then they throw him in a wheelchair and they take him back, in the wheelbarrow, and they take him back home. He has to spend 2 months in bed. Eventually he gets out on crutches, and eventually he's able to walk again, and he goes on with his life. And he finds his way down to Key West. We're in the 1850s by now. Finds his way down to Key West, completely reinvents himself. He's never done any farming before, as far as I can tell, but all of a sudden he becomes a very successful farmer.
Goodness.
Wow.
And they become pillar of the community. At 73 years old, somebody described him as the strongest man in town and the best farmer in town. In 1863, when word got down to Key West that there was that the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed by President Lincoln, there was a big parade. Sandy was at the head of the parade in a fancy suit with a rose corsage and colorful sash, carrying a saber, and that he limped the entire way from his old injuries in Port Leon. But there he was at the head of the Freedom Parade after all he'd been through.
How about that?
What
Oh
an
my
incredible
goodness.
story, as usual.
Wow.
Jim Duffy, Secrets of the Eastern Shore. Thank you, as
Thank you.
always.
Thank you.